Welcome to the PharmaSource podcast.
As we close out 2025, I wanted to take some time to look back at what's been a really dynamic year in pharma manufacturing. We know all the headlines. 2025 was a year of record manufacturing investment in the United States, the great reshoring that began with the Trump administration's use of trade tariffs and most favoured nation pricing to encourage manufacturing to move to the US. Pharma companies lined up to pledge a total of over $370 billion to onshore and expand pharmaceutical manufacturing in the United States. But what impact has this made on the contract manufacturing sector? Well, throughout the year, PharmaSource has been tracking every significant announcement in contract manufacturing, from major investments and facility expansions to partnerships, M&A activity, and executive moves. We've captured all of this in our CDMO news tracker, which is updated daily and free to access at pharmasource.global/analysis. It's become a really valuable resource for anyone trying to follow the trends and activity. So today, I'm joined by our very own Tamnna Thakur, who's been at the helm of sourcing, publishing, and analysing all this news. Tamnna, thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Dora. Nice to be here again.
And so you've had a busy year analysing and collecting all of this news data. So tell us what the analysis tells us about the state of the CDMO sector this year.
Absolutely, Dora. When we step back and look at the full year, we tracked around 732 CDMO announcements in 2025, which is a large volume and tells us a lot about the level of activity in this sector. And yes, we saw heavy reshoring into the US, investment and capacity expansion alongside platform-led differentiation.
Let's talk about the importance of the United States then. What is the data showing us?
Okay, so the US is, clearly dominating with over 40% of all the announcements. But when you look at disclosed investment, it's even higher. Total global investment that we tracked for 2025 reached around $24.86 billion, and 74% of that, roughly around $18.48 billion, went into the United States. It says a lot about where the industry believes manufacturing should sit. Just before recording this episode, INCOG announced around $200 million of investment in building sterile injectables capacity in Indiana. Next was India, which stood out as the second largest investment market with around $3.3 billion, showing it's a very attractive market still, and in such a politically charged year, offers the strongest alternative to China. India's investment was largely capacity expansion in small molecules, APIs, biosimilars, and increasing the biotech manufacturing.
Well, that is really interesting, isn't it? And almost 3/4 of the investment over the year in the US, that is really telling, isn't it? It looks like September was the biggest month for investment. What happened then? Were there a few mega deals, or was it more evenly spread across the sector?
So September was definitely the biggest month by a long way. We saw around $7.17 billion in disclosed investment in a single month, and driven by some very large deals, 97% of which were to the US facilities. For example, Fujifilm Biotechnology's $3.2 billion of Holly Spring investment, Han Scientific $2 billion of US expansion, Samsung Biologics $1.3 billion of US contract.
Wow, that's big. So looking at the types of announcements, what's been dominating the news?
Without any question, partnerships dominated the news flow. We tracked around 301 partnership announcements, which is 41% of all the news that we have tracked. Facility expansions came next, followed by mergers and acquisitions. So the top two areas are collaboration and then capacity, which is a pretty good summary of this industry and what makes it tick.
Which companies have been the most active, making the most noise in the market?
It's WuXi Biologics again. WuXi Biologics was the most active. We tracked around 20 announcements, doing a huge amount of activity as they expand globally. And one of the most important was their H1 earnings, showing they were up 15% year on year despite the difficulties they have had with US policymakers. This shows us that every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and you should never bet against China. Others consistently in the news included AGC Biologics, Lonza, who had an important year in announcing One Lonza strategy, Thermo Fisher, Lotte Biologics, and the Fujifilm Biotechnologies. And we recently interviewed Fujifilm's chairman for the podcast, so worth checking out that interview for more of their growth strategy as well. And also worth flagging that there were a lot of platform technology announcements. Companies like WuXi, Samsung, Elmec, Merck, Epsina, Charles River, and many others, signaling that it's not just a race for capacity, but their proprietary technology systems are being used by CDMOs as the key differentiation point as well.
Yeah, interesting you mentioned WuXi again, because I know when we talked back in August, WuXi was dominating the headlines there too, maybe in retaliation to the Biosecure Act. Great, thank you for this, Tamnna. Very insightful. Thinking about the year ahead, it will be fascinating to see if the US investment continues at this pace or if it begins to rebalance, and how platform-led competition evolves. I mean, in this uncertain environment, I've been hearing the word uncertain in almost every single conversation I've had in the past year. It'll be interesting to see which CDMOs will be making the biggest moves in 2026. It's still a very fragmented market. Should we expect to see more consolidation? If people want to download the full analysis, head to pharmasource.global/analysis. Thanks again, Tamnna. I'm looking forward to picking your brain about this next time.
Okay, bye bye, and happy holidays.